All right, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Dr. Homebrew. Thanks for sticking around with the old Dr. Homebrew show. We got 2 shows a month. This is the first show for the month of April, I think. Brian Cooper.
Yeah,
I don't really know why I'm saying all of this. I guess I'm a little distracted. So my intro is suffering, and that's okay. Our last show, no, it's our second show. Jeez, I just screwed up. See what happens when Brian Shar isn't on when we start?
Should we start over?
I screwed up. No, I don't want to start over. Are you kidding me? That's work.
I'm here now.
Hey, what's up, Shar?
Hey, save us.
No, we're really starting. Yes, that's what's happening.
Hey, there we go.
Save us from ourselves. Yes.
We do have a mead here. Again, it seems like we didn't get any meads, and then now we've gotten several this year, I think, even too. So that's pretty cool. I do like judging meads. It gives us a nice chance to learn and sort of hone our mead crafting palate. But before we get to Ashley and her mead, I do want to tell you guys about 5-Star Chemicals. You go to 5starchemicals.com right now and learn everything you need to do to make better beer. Yes, even mead, ciders, anything else, anything you're fermenting or cooking in general at home, but especially fermenting at home when you really need to make sure that everything is clean on the cold side and sanitized on the cold side. 5-Star Chemicals has what you need, which is PBW and Star San. And if for some reason you don't want to do Star San, they have Sandy Clean, which is their iodine-based cleaner, and a couple other fun stuff over there too. So check them out, 5starchemicals.com. They will help you make better beer for sure. And mead and all the things I already said. It's fine. All right, welcome, Ashley. What's going on? Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. I appreciated the opportunity.
Brian, do you have any questions that you want to ask Ashley?
I do. And Ashley, first off, thank you for delivering the mead to my house. I'm sorry I just wasn't there. I mean, I'm usually always here, and there's always somebody here. Like, oh, you happen to show up at like the 10 minutes throughout like the week that nobody was at home.
Way to go, Ashley.
Thank you for doing
winning
that.
already.
So, are you in a homebrew club?
I am. I'm a part of Doze, which is based out of Walnut Creek.
Doze.
I've never heard of that. What is that club? Have they done anything good in the homebrewing community or won any kudos or awards?
You know, like the Radagast and Club of the Year.
Oh yeah,
at the same time. Those guys.
Those guys. Yeah.
Those awards. These are made up awards.
They had a pretty rad 25th anniversary party last summer too. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
They're doing some good work. You're my local homebrew club. You know, I'm still a wort of wisdom after many years of being a wort of wisdom. But you know, I've got now that we're kind of post-COVID and I'm all vaccinated and double boosted and everything, I need to think about coming to a Doze meeting at some point.
Absolutely, you are more than welcome.
Thank you.
I want to
been to one,
Brian, but we're,
yeah. Jason would be like 93 years old. COVID forever. It's still here. There, 2 people got it last year.
I wish, man. If we can get down to that, I will kiss you, Brian Cooper.
COVID is forever.
But what if you get COVID from kissing Cooper? I mean, that's entirely possible.
I would play the.
I mean, it's more of an airborne virus, but still.
Hey man, who knows? Well, anyway, look, as exciting as me kissing Cooper is, let's talk about Ashley and your mead. Ashley, are you a mead maker by definite trade? I was gonna say trade, but it's not like we're in the 1800s or anything like that.
No, by hobby right now. That I am actually looking to go, I guess, pro in the future. I guess you'd call it. I want to open a meadery in the area, so it's a
nice
building to the cause.
Okay, excellent. How long have you been making mead?
Just about 1.5 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Hey,
I've enjoyed mead though. I've enjoyed mead.
Have you learned a lot?
I have learned a lot. In fact, I just did the conference last weekend. WIBS. Women.
I've never heard of it.
Women's Brewers. It's a conference that was over the weekend, and
Nice.
5-Star was there.
There you go. Okay. All right.
Wow.
But
Cool.
a lot of water science, malt science, a lot of really fun stuff.
Where was that?
It was virtual.
Oh,
Really
nice.
virtual. Mhm.
Oh,
That's
even
really
better.
neat.
That's the way to do it these days.
Yep.
Because of COVID, Brian Shar.
Hey, I'm not saying that people shouldn't take precautions and be safe and everything else, but
I don't want to
part of those precautions are like, I'm old, so I've gotten both my shots, gotten 2 boosters.
know.
I'm good.
Just kidding, Shar.
Going to Homebrew Con?
What mead are we going to try today here, Ashley?
So it's Blackberry Blossom Traditional. It's a sack mead. It's about a 14.7%, so it's just into sack territory.
Oof. All right. Let's go.
It was made last year as semi-sweet, and I think it's good, but we'll see what you guys think.
So a question I used to ask a lot, and I don't, but I will now because you sort of prefaced it with you're looking to sort of open a meadery. What are you looking for feedback-wise from us?
I'm looking for all the critiques. I'm looking for building my palate and what I taste, and I want to hear what you taste so I can relate what I'm tasting to what's in that glass.
Okay. Do you want to, would you buy this feedback section?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Cool, right? Let's do that.
Yep.
Would you buy this?
Yeah, so
would you buy this?
The board. Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right, Brian Cooper, why don't you start since we gave the luxury of Brian Shar starting to the last
that last show. Yeah, I noticed that. Thank you. Actually, that worked out well.
You're welcome.
He and Jamil got to sandwich my review of the beer, which was maybe a little nicer than theirs, but yeah. Anyway, we were all within about
a little bad
5-6 points, so it's okay.
Look, I basically told the man that I didn't have anywhere to spit his beer out. So whatever you said,
I heard that.
So it's fun.
We try not to say that to our entrants, but sometimes you just have to be brutally honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, just based on his attitude, I was like, okay, he can understand where this is coming from, and it's fine. Like,
and he had kind of a cursed brew day on top of it once we heard about that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay,
let's do it.
I cracked this bottle last night. I've got the second half of the bottle here today, and of course, it's an M1B semi-sweet traditional mead. Declared carbonation level is still. The sweetness is, of course, medium for semi-sweet, and strength is sack. So when you open it, if it was a massive hiss, I would have been like surprised and like, oh, well, that bottle got away with, got away from her. But no, it's just a little minor like opening sound. Like there's no escaping air, but you just hear the sound of the opening, which we don't get very often here on Dr. Homebrew. Click, open. Okay. The bouquet. So we're working off a Mead score sheet here, obviously. And I'm hoping I passed the Mead exam so I can check that Mead judge box, but I haven't gotten my results back yet. Oh. Ashley was actually there helping with that exam and a part of it, and would have taken it if it wasn't completely full. I hope you'll find a seat in a Mead exam someday soon. And the bouquet, a very pleasant floral honey character, medium high, smooth, moderate alcohol, with medium high fruity esters, somewhat berry-like, strong aroma of honey, quite pleasant and inviting. And when you smell something that has the impression that it might be, sweet tasting, I think I have a weird thing calling out sweet in the nose, but it is sweet seeming. There's a lot to take in here, and it tastes like it's going to like be nice and sweet, and maybe not sickly sweet or anything, but it's just like it has that impression. And your nose, I think, as a human, like sugar is one of your brain's favorite foods. So you're probably good at smelling out things that are sweet in some way. Something tips you off to that, but I don't know what the mechanism is. The complexity seems nice and high. So there's a lot of different elements at play here that are playing well together. And when I read the description of, I guess I've probably smelled blackberry blossoms in over time. It's that floral, but they describe it in the BGCP literature as leafy. So I'm like, am I getting leafy? I don't leafy like plant-like leafy.
Well, no, I understand what
smell of fresh
leaf, Brian. I understand what leafy means.
What kind of leaf? Yeah. No, yeah. I'm like grasping
like the leaf car where you charge it. And...
Yeah, the Nissan. Yeah. Doesn't smell like a Nissan.
It doesn't smell leafy though. I don't
get.
I was picking on it because it's a weird
descriptor.
It's a weird descriptor.
But the other descriptor is it's very distinctive. So I guess you just have to go out and smell blackberry blossoms, and
Until
you know,
you
as you know, the
learn.
yeah, the blossom often smells a lot different than the fruit, you know, as
Yeah,
evidenced by orange blossom and a lot of other things. But and they can be pleasant in their own right, of course. You know, that's a nice aroma. I like, and just a real nice honey-like character in the nose. It smells like real clean, fresh honey. So I give it an 8 out of 10 bouquet. Appearance wise, it's a light yellowy golden colored mead, kind of it's got a golden tinge to it, but it's almost got like a straw like element to it as well. It's like really light yellow. The mead does coat the sides of the glass pretty nicely. It's not like dripping down with legs, but it's very coating, and as the coating slowly descends, you see a little bit of legs. No carbonation visible here. It's fairly clear, only a little bit of light haze, which I would take a point away for. So I 5 out of 6 for appearance. Flavor wise, I get a medium strong blackberry blossom honey note. It's very floral and just, you know, general honey like. I would say that the sweetness seems somewhat higher than just semi-sweet. It is nice and sweet, but it's certainly not cloying or anything like that. So semi-sweet, it fits. You could almost declare it as sweet, but it's not, you know, just sometimes just with the balance of it, if it falls into stats like, okay, this should be semi-sweet, but it tastes a little sweeter, you could declare it as sweet and get away with that too. There's plenty of sweetness here to go around, but it's again not super candy like or anything like that. Medium low acid, giving a pleasant balance. Is not too sharp or acidic. Smooth with a medium high alcohol that plays well with the other elements here. There's no carbon dioxide. It's not even, it's not no little bubbles or anything forming here. It's just completely still as declared. The tannins are low and out of the way, not really harsh or biting, but there's a little bit of tannin there that's playing off the other stuff. Just overall in the aftertaste, I get this nice sweet floral honey aftertaste, and it's really nice. I landed at a 20 out of 24 for flavor. I really like the flavor of this mead a lot. Overall drinking pleasure, overall impression. It just seems like a really cleanly made varietal honey mead with very pleasant blackberry blossom honey notes. Just a touch sweeter seeming than the declared, but you know, not too far off there, honestly. And maybe a hint more tannin or something could help give it a little more structure and offset that. You know, that was one thing that was maybe a little bit low. Lend the perception of a touch more dryness. Yeah, it wasn't overwhelming alcohol wise. I kind of said that the alcohol sack mead, it sure doesn't taste like the typical sack mead that I get. That's just like boom, hello. Although sometimes, you know, if you mix it with berries or something, it can be very deceptive because you're getting the sweetness and the esters from the fruits playing with the alcohol and everything else that's there. You can just drink a little bit of a 16%er and it tastes like candy juice, you know. It's great. Okay. But you know, I was gonna say it seems pretty deceptive for what's there, but it's not like super strong sack. So that comment, you know, about it not being, it's on the low end for sack, that makes sense. But I think if you called this standard strength, you know, it would probably, that's a little more than standard. So but it's a nice job keeping that alcohol nice and smooth, very enjoyable. Nice work. 8 out of 10 for overall impression. I landed at a 41 on this mead, so I think, you know, I'd like to hear what Brian has to say about it too. But it has and I've made a lot of meads too, and when I tasted when I won a medal, I was in my garage bottling this mead, and I tasted this mead, and I was just like, that's a wow mead. That's a really good mead. And, you know, it was the one that went on and got me a medal. And I was pretty new to making meads, and I tried to repeat it later and I just couldn't make it the same ever again. It's one of those things. It was a weird batch where, you know, I didn't hit my gravity. So I took half the batch and I watered it up down to the gravity that I wanted to make a hydromel. And then that one just fermented out with a perfect semi-sweet. And it was just like the magic mead, and I never could make it again. And maybe I have to do that thing where I water it down, do the weird whatever I did. I have all the notes and do it all over again.
Yep.
But this has all the things that I want in a mead and none of the things that I don't, really. For the most part, it's, there's minor adjustments you could make, but overall it's a very lovely mead, and I like the varietal character in it. Seems right on. So yeah, excellent mead. Thank you.
What was the score?
41.
Would you buy it?
I'd buy a lot of that.
Okay, there you
Pay
go.
good money.
All right. Well, Ashley has your credit card, so she'll go ahead and bill you.
You'll be a pro starting right this second.
Yeah.
Just, Cooper, just give out your credit card number right now on the air, including your that little 3-digit number.
2,
Right?
yeah, 3.
All right, Shar, go for it.
All right. So, Ashley, thank you for sharing. I have to fess up that I may be a grandmaster beer judge, but I might as well be an apprentice mead judge. I'm really just not that familiar with mead, and I can't speak as intelligently about it as Cooper can or a lot of other folks. But I don't think that my score sheet's going to be as thorough as his was, but I give it my best shot here. So bouquet and aroma, I thought it was very clean. I definitely got the aroma of the honey and a little bit of what I thought of as the blackberry character. That's also one of those things where I never know if I'm talking myself into that. Can I taste the berries, or am I talking myself into that? Regardless, I got some character like that. I got a sort of the honey, sort of medium to low honey aroma, no ethanol aroma, despite the fact this is 14%. I didn't get like a strong sharpness. Some of the ethanol, clean ethanol, has a sweet character to it. And I suspect that, to me, kind of mixed with the honey, because you're going to smell ethanol at 14%, but I think it's just subtle and an evidence of a good fermentation, clean fermentation, that it wasn't a harsh fusel, nothing poked out that was obviously, oh yeah, this is ethanol. It was just smooth and part of the honey. So 8 out of 10 for aroma. Appearance, 6 out of 6. It's crystal clear. It's the problem with these Zoom backgrounds. You can't always tell. You don't want to look at my kitchen and everything else and whatever I need to clean. But you can't really see you've seen your mead, you know what it looks like. It's kind of a light golden, like a Chardonnay. Again, if I hold this up and look at it, I think this looks kind of like what I expect a glass of Chardonnay to look like. It's still, it has legs, 6 out of 6. Flavor, I really enjoyed this, 18 out of 24. At a low sweetness initially. And I think if it's like wine, right, and I kind of think of mead a little bit more like wine sometimes in terms of judging. If you're talking about a sweet wine, like a dessert wine, that's almost cloying, right? And that's not bad, but you need to know what you're in for if you're going to have like a dessert wine and it's just a thick, cloying wine. Like a normal Chardonnay or something is going to be dry. And anything that's maybe got a little hint of sweetness is going to be, semi-sweet, off dry, whatever they call that. And this definitely has that. It's not something I think of as being sweet, but there is some, low degree of sweetness here that is, I think, really complements the beverage. Full mouthfeel, low acidity. I'm just marching through. I'll do it what my old buddy Kevin Pratt taught me to do years ago with the beer spreadsheet. Just look, go march through every word, comment on, and there's a whole list. I'm going to comment on each of these things, probably in a relatively uninformed manner. It had a little.
Kevin Pratt could also talk a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why he and I are friends.
Yeah, right.
we could blah 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 blah, endlessly about anything. I got sort of a medium degree of tannin, low alcohol flavor. Again, I think the ethanol is a sweet ethanol, not a fusel or harsh ethanol. So I got that at kind of a low level in a pleasant way. Low kind of blackberry character. I thought it was a really amazing balance of all these different characteristics. There's all these different dimensions of fruit and sweetness and acidity and tannin. I think really all came together in a way that borrow JP's language, isn't poking out different places. It's very smooth. Yeah, it's jazz hands, poking out hands. It's not poking out everywhere. It's just a very smooth, well-composed beverage. There's no carbonation, but it's not supposed to be. It's a still mead. Smooth finish, pleasant aftertaste. Again, 18 out of 24. Overall impression 8 for a total of 40. And Cooper and I managed to come in within a point, despite the fact that I know next to nothing about mead. So that just means we're just totally simpatico with our judging as usual.
Either Cooper failed the judge exam, and he should have, or Brian Shar should pass by proxy because Cooper did.
We'll train you.
That's how that works.
Yeah, we should get that honorary Mead. Gordon, Gordon, give us the honorary Mead apprentice thing. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I think this is a really tasty mead that has a lot of flavor and complexity. I don't know much about mead, but I know I like this. So really, really good job. And like JP asked Cooper, yes, I would purchase this.
Okay.
What score did you give
it? 40.
40. Okay. Before we get to you, Ashley, so sometimes I comment on this stuff, sometimes I don't. I like this mead a lot. I'm blown away by the aromatics. I think you've controlled those very well. I think the honey that you used is very good. With a really good mead, and I'll just use Moonlight as an example because it's the only commercial example that I really know of. Michael's meads, you can really just smell them all day. They're so aromatic and so bright, and I think emblematic, representative, I don't know, some word like that, of the source honey. And, you have to have a good product or good honey to make a good product. I tasted, I taste sometimes in meads, and I don't know what this is, almost paste, like a glue stick aroma, but in the flavor. And I don't know what that is. It could be borderline minty. So I don't know if it's a yeast thing or not, but if no one else got it, it's probably just my weird tongue. I don't know, but it's not off-putting. And I think I taste it in meads more often than not, which leads me to believe there's some, I don't know, mechanical reason within just making the mead that this sometimes happens. So it's not, I wouldn't ever say it's like a flaw. But with this, and I don't know the style very well, like probably no less than Shar does, which I know is hard to believe. But the sack
pretty shocking, man.
Yeah, the semi-sweet sack mead. I would probably give it like a 38 or a 40. Also, I want just a little more out of it. It's almost like. It almost just sort of glides into neutral when you're done drinking it. You're like, okay, I just want like a little more sweetness, a little more flavor, a little more, just goose me a little bit more, just a bit, like 10% more. Like, in my opinion, you're almost there because it does sort of finish on the warmer side. And I know it's a mead, that's 14%. And I understand all that. But I don't know if you can figure out how just to like kind of zhuzh it up a little bit with it's great.
Like the volume's at 10 and needs to turn up to 11 kind of thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And but if I walk into a tap room, if I walk into your place and I order this and I go, oh yeah, it's very good. I would not be disappointed. I would still recommend the thing. But yeah, this one it leaves me just wanting a little bit more. It's very nice and refreshing. So I do like that. But if you want to maybe you keep it like this, maybe it's a 12%er, not a 14.5 or whatever it was. I don't know. There's some, the last 10% for me is sort of not there.
My biggest curiosity
on that.
Yeah. We'll talk about the recipe, and there's nothing wrong with back sweetening a mead, and Michael and a lot of people do it. So, but I would be curious, and I would maybe suspect that this is a back sweetened mead, because the honey character is so strong in it. I get a little bit of a raw honey character, but it's such a pleasant honey that it doesn't bother me. So
yeah,
if we could just talk about your recipe and your process a little bit.
Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a 5-gallon batch. So I started with a little bit of honey, brought it up to about 11, 10. And I use, if anyone's interested, I use Glory Bee honey, which I was able to get through Costco, which I haven't seen in a while, which is sad.
That's awesome.
But I didn't have to pay for shipping, so it was great. They don't have it in store, but I could get it online, and it was totally worth the price.
Nice.
And I've really enjoyed the honey. I use a little bit of tannin in the beginning because I found when I tried making this in the beginning, it just lacked a little bit of that tannin, that little body feel that I wanted to translate into the sweetness and the balance of the mead. When I first did this, I tried a few different types of yeast because I like my test batches and I'm a fanatic about yeast, but landed on QA23. And it was kind of a toss-up between D47 and QA23. They're both like white wines, dry white wine yeast. Fermented with Fermade K on a schedule, fermented to dry, and then I stabilize and allow it to rest, and then I do back sweeten. And it was back sweetened to about 10-15.
Actually, when you say stabilized, what does that mean?
Potassium metabisulfide and potassium sorbate. And I add those.
So you're killing the yeast at that point, so it's not going to ferment further.
And
Correct.
the other one, prevents it from reproducing as well. So
Gotcha.
The sorbate. Yep.
Yeah. I have actually low heat pasteurized this in the past when I had smaller batches and bottled. But as I get bigger batches, it takes way too long to low heat pasteurize. And then I recently had an issue with a low heat pasteurization of one of my meads that kind of destroyed it, made it very acidic. Sorry, my cat is very needy.
I apologize for cat love.
Oh, we've all had that issue as part of the show, I think.
That is a glossy cat.
Yes,
that's a beautiful
he's very
cat.
soft. He's very soft, and he's very loving. But yeah, so I don't really heat pasteurize too much anymore now because of that incident. And
it didn't get scorched or anything. It was just a little.
No, it turned. I had an Acerglyn that was amazing, and it was a bourbon barrel aged. The bourbon barrel kind of came through. It was really pleasant on the nose. The flavor was great. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this into the club, so I better stabilize it so I can bottle it to take it in. And so I did a low heat pasteurization, and it just changed the flavor completely.
Okay, so you're not talking about pasteurizing the must. You're talking about the finished mead.
The actual finished mead.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a bummer.
Yeah.
That stinks.
You do the no heat method then? You're not.
Yes, I'm doing a no heat method now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in heating fermented beverages after they have fermented, because I think just the risks of just what happened to yours, whether it's beer or mead or whatever, you're asking for oxidation, you're accelerating chemical processes that maybe you don't want to. There's a lot of stuff that you've gone to all this effort to control and control properly, and then you heat it up, and then everything can go out of control really quickly.
And I learned the hard way.
That's the best way to learn sometimes.
Well, better than never learning at all, I guess.
Exactly.
Cool.
Okay. Well, very good. And you said this is a year old.
Yes.
Okay. How have you found it changing?
Yeah.
Over time, what are your flavor profiles?
So it starts very hot. Like it is super hot for a good while, and it calms down over time, and you get more of that blackberry flavor, which is what I really love about blackberry honey. Someone was talking about the flavor. I think it was Brian Shar. The flavor for blackberry honey actually has notes of the actual blackberry in there, so it makes it kind of one of those rare honeys where you do get the berry flavor out of it. So you weren't wrong to taste that.
Oh, good. I wasn't totally imagining that. Awesome.
Yeah.
I did get some berry-like notes in the flavor for sure. Yeah.
So it's one of the unique honeys, and I really enjoy it because of that.
Cool.
And then did you use any finings, or what do you clarify with?
I let it rest and clear out as much as possible. And once I back sweeten with honey, I hit it with super clear.
Okay.
All right.
That's what is that again? Bentonite or something, or
I'm blanking on it at the moment.
Yeah.
Comes in a packet.
Brian, come on.
It's just
Clarify.
super
But
clear.
it's some stuff.
Yeah.
It's a thing called
Clarifier.
super clear that clears it up. Yeah, we can look it up.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go. Cool. Well, that sounds great. Ashley, do you have any questions for the guys at all?
I don't think so, because it sounds like you'll all buy it, so you're fine.
We'll be all
Yeah.
right.
When
Okay.
you start,
You've already
that
signed
metering,
us up for your Mead club.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
it's Kieselol, Kitasan. That's what it is. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. Bless you.
Right.
All right, Ashley. Well, hey, we are always here to taste your meads, and come on anytime.
Thank you very much.
Two-stage.
Yeah.
I really
Yes, thank
appreciate it.
you.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Next time you bring some by, I'll try to be sure to be here.
Okay.
Excellent.
I hope you're back on the show next month. And also next month, it's going to be our 9th anniversary. Our first
Holy
show
cow.
was released in May 2013.
Oh my
So
God.
Wow.
we're
That's
getting
Maybe I
there.
should bring you something special for that. I have a
Yeah.
fig that I just did. Fig
Ooh.
and black pepper.
Sounds good to me. Honestly,
Nice.
that's great. All right, hang on, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. We're going to be right back.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here with another, well, not another beer, with a beer. This time we had a mead. Now we have a beer. This one is a salted caramel porter. And I think I can honestly say I've never had a salted caramel porter beer before. I'm pretty excited about that. Brewed by Sean. Sean, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. I
It's
appreciate
a nice,
the beers.
nice label here too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all thanks to the wife there.
Hey, Brian,
Nice.
can I ask him the usual question that you ask people?
Yeah, go for it, man.
So Sean, are you in a homebrew club?
I am in a homebrew club. The Mads Emergis. There's this guy Brian Cooper. He's I think he's the vice president.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what you wanted to ask. All right.
Well, hopefully he's better than our Cooper.
He looks kind of familiar to this guy. I don't know.
I seem to recall founding a club a long time ago, like 15 years ago now. But yeah, we called it the Mads Emergis. Oh yeah, every second Thursday of the month I'm there too.
Ryan never misses an opportunity to talk about his club ever.
Madzheimergist.com. Where do you meet every month? At
We are nomadic at the moment, so
Okay.
we met at Pennyweight Brewing, Craft Brewing, in Livermore.
All right, let's get back to Sean
All over
here,
the
and his
place.
beer for a
Yeah,
second.
Sean, tell us more
Have
about
you made
yourself.
a salted caramel porter before? This is your very first opportunity to do
This
this?
is my first attempt. Yeah, no, I've only been brewing for about 10 months now, but I've been,
Wow.
I go out in different spectrums and try and brew all sorts of different stuff. So
10 months, dude. It took me like 4 years to brew my first pale ale. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Ice cream man, is that the thing you're sort of going for? Like, tell me about the ice cream man. It's on the label, so I'm just kidding.
There's a skull if you look closely.
It was just a kind of something I think of like ice cream, salted caramel.
Okay.
It wasn't anything specific, just kind of like that's
Got
what we came up with.
Okay.
That's not your serial killer nickname.
That's really that's really ballsy, man. Brewing less than a year. I mean, a salted caramel porter sounds very complicated to make, and I would have been 100% terrified to even approach that. So good for you for not being me.
Yeah, well, it was not easy to find like any real ways of doing it. There's not a lot of my stuff is just YouTube and stuff like that, and
Sure.
Google. And I could hardly find anything on salted caramel porter. So this is a lot of experimentation here.
Yeah, so
well, good.
Sean starts brewing during the pandemic, basically, and then comes to our meeting, and we're like, well, bring some beer at the first meeting, and he sounds like an energetic brewer, and so the second meeting he does bring some beer, and he brings a salted caramel a salted caramel porter and a sour. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
He's an adventurous
out of the gate.
for a 10 months in. You're right,
love it.
JP.
All right, Shar, why don't you start us off, man?
No, certainly. Thank you very much for sharing. And man, yeah, to talk like all these guys, man, when I was brewing 10 months into brewing in like 1993 was not even close to this. I mean, that's but even I'll say this, even though we have so many more ingredients and so much more information available to us today, there's an amount of skill and finesse that you have to have, and it's sort of a matter of talent And man, you got a lot of talent to be able to put this together after 10 months of brewing. That's for sure. But I did make a note for bottle inspection. It's a nice bottle, and I got a good authoritative hiss when I opened it up. Aroma started off with good dark malt aroma at a medium level, toasty more than roast, at a low caramel. Overall, kind of low aroma, probably because it was maybe a little colder than it should have been when I judged this. So I have the one bottle, and I opened this up at about 6:30. It's about 9:30 now. It's definitely warmed up a lot, so I'm getting a lot more, sort of aroma in general out of it. This is a salted caramel porter. I'm not getting a lot of caramel out of the aroma, but overall there's no off aromas, and it smells really nice. I give this a 7 out of 12. Appearance, it's dark brown, clear with a slight haze to the extent it's kind of hard to tell with a beer this dark. Large persistent tan head, so that's 3 out of 3. Initially, the flavor was dark malt, and I got just a little bit of phenol. And what's fascinating is that as it warms up, I wasn't getting any salt out of it when it was colder. And as it warms up, I definitely get the salt, and I'm not getting the phenol. And that was a little bit of dead air as I was going back and tasting that again. And again, as we do on this show, sometimes I'm going to change some of my scores on the fly.
On the fly score changing. Let's go.
This is the kind of excitement and that you could only get from live beer judging on Dr. Homebrew. So there's kind of a low to medium salt that comes out, and it's a lot more. I think the caramel and the salt are a lot more noticeable as it warms up some. And I'm going to cross out where I said low phenol, because I'm not getting that now.
I think
That's
we've
strange.
never on this show have ever said low to medium salt.
I never have.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And pick a side though. Is it low or medium low?
Oh,
Medium low. Yeah, it's medium low.
Medium low. Right.
And it's interesting. I wonder, because a lot of the times, almost never when you're judging a beer, does something that you think of as a flaw go away as it gets warmer? Almost always it gets worse. Now, the exception is aroma. Sometimes there's something obnoxious you'll get at the very beginning of a pour that'll blow off and not smell later. With flavor, that it only gets more intense. And I wonder if there's some weird interplay of like the saltiness and the temperature where it gives some sort of a aroma at a lower temp that it doesn't, or a flavor at a lower temp that it doesn't at a higher temp. I'm not enough of a chemist to know that, but
or you just mistook it for something else.
Yeah, exactly. So there's sort of a low background sweetness of caramel, which is there. Hot bitterness comes up to almost balance in mid palate. The caramel is subtle, but it's present. I think it's well attenuated. Finish is pleasant and short. I gave it 14 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel 5 out of 5, medium carbonation, no warming. It's creamy with no astringency, medium body. Overall impression, I'm going to adjust that on the fly too. Going to give that an 8 for a total of 37. I think this is a really easy drinking beer that I really enjoyed. And I think one of the things I really enjoyed about it was the subtlety, that the caramel was present and the salt was present, and they kind of synergistically work together, which is why salted caramel is like a candy works. And the subtlety is what I thought was really good about it. And that's also the thing that's maybe a little tricky about this beer for competition, is that if you like this beer, and I like this beer, and if you like drinking it the way it is, just keep making it exactly the way it is. I think that if you're going to enter this in competition, particularly in experimental, 34C, which is what Cooper and I discussed beforehand, we put this in the experimental category. The problem with entering something like that in a competition is that judges tend to, for better or worse, want those declared ingredients to really jump out and hit them in the face.
For something that really pops. Yeah,
they really pop. Oh, she pops, and they really want to have it come out and pop. And I think the salt is there and the caramel is there, but the caramel might be too subtle for some judges to really appreciate its presence. And so you're kind of competition wise, almost kind of rolling the dice here, depending on what kind of skilled judges you get doing the judging in the experimental category.
Humble
But yeah,
brag.
it's something. Was that JP? I'm sorry.
Humble brag. You might, you might not get the best,
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all, JP. But I'm just saying
you might not get me judging your beer. You'll have some other grandmaster judge that's just not as good.
But then it's also the situation like with IPAs, right? A lot of that has to do, how are you going to score? It depends on where you are on the flight, right? So even, a lot of judges, any judge, right? You're doing an experimental flight and maybe you have 8 beers on that flight, 6 beers, whatever, and you get something that's subtle. And if you get it early on, you might be really like, wow, this is the one, this is the one that deserves the 40 or something, right?
Right. And then you
but
get
if it comes like the last in the flight after you've had like, a kiwi,
the jalapeno,
fruited, smoked
bomb.
cheddar, whatever, then yeah, it's that can also affect that. But I might consider, if you're brewing it for yourself and you like how it tastes, keep doing it. If you're doing it for competition, I might bump up the caramel flavor just a little. And I'll be curious later on when you talk about your recipe, how you were able to get the caramel flavor, because usually something like that, it ferments out altogether. And it's just hard to get that flavor without it coming across diacetyl. I got caramel flavor. It did not come across like diacetyl at all.
That's a good point.
That's a good achievement, because a lot of times stuff in that caramel butterscotch family, it tastes good. It's a good candy. You get it in beer and it can be, it signals diacetyl and oftentimes is kind of a perceived as a flaw. But really good job with that. And I'm going to stop yapping about this and let Cooper have a chance to talk.
Yeah, there's a fine line between a light butterscotch and full-blown like hot buttered popcorn. It's
a finer line than you would think. But yeah, you're very right. That's a fine line.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, yeah, again, when I opened this bottle, it got a nice little hiss upon opening. It's an attractive bottle. Well, nice fill level. Judging as a 34C experimental beer with just salted caramel porter as the specialty claim. And that's fine. When you enter a beer like this, you don't have to declare it as an American porter or any other kind of porter. I was kind of keying off the American porter guidelines just to have something to work from.
Me too.
The BGCP 2015, because it's an American brewed beer. It would be the most logical thing. Doesn't seem like an English porter, but anyway, there's different ways you could declare it that would make the judges think different things and judge it differently. But I think the way you entered it is fine. Aroma wise, it's got a pleasant and smooth dark malt character. There's no burnt quality at all. It's like a mellow porter. It's like really smooth. I do get some light caramel notes intertwined with that, but they are low. I'm getting some fairly smooth coffee-like note in there too. A little light chocolate. There's a lot of complexity without it poking out as roasty or burnt or harsh at all, which I really like. It's like porter mellow. It's not like one of those really big. It's less like American porter than it is just generally porter-like. It's like, not standing out as English or like really strongly as an American robust porter kind of a thing, but it's just porter with everything else that's going on. You might be careful with making it too much strongly on the dark side, or it's going to make it even harder to get some of the specialty stuff that's going on. So that was a good direction to go with it, I think. Light chocolate, some hints of toffee. The hops are low, a little bit earthy. I'm not getting any DMS or diacetyl in there. DMS is like a cooked corn kind of thing you can get sometimes. Diacetyl is that artificial butter. None of that is there. It seems very cleanly fermented, nice and smooth. There is a low alcohol note in there. I couldn't help but, as I was judging it, to read the label and see this is Wait, hold on. Yeah, 7.9%.
Wow.
That's high for
Good
a porter. So I'm like, wow, that is smooth for how strong it is. And maybe that's where some of the sweetness is coming from too, when you get into the flavor. But the alcohol does come through in the nose, and you do notice it as a kind of a sweetness. Appearance wise, rich brown color, seems quite clear with a low tan head. That sticks around for a short while before fading, kind of turns into a color around the edge of the glass there. The beer has kind of some orangey brown highlights to it. It's good appearance, 3 out of 3. Flavor wise, smooth and sweet dark malt is up front. That low caramel comes in behind it, a little bit hidden, but it's there, just lightly perceptible alongside somewhat modest but definitely noticeable tingle of saltiness there. And I don't know that I would argue to go higher on the saltiness. Like Brian said, it's probably maybe a little harder to get when it's super cold.
Yeah, I think the salt level is perfect the way it is. Like I wouldn't mess with that at all.
Yeah, it's like a chloride thing. And sometimes maybe with the water, it could blend together with the chlorides in your water to give this kind of a sweet, salty. Yes, you're going for a sweet and salty thing here. And the way it plays is kind of nice. I don't like things that are too salty. And, well, as all Americans do, we probably oversalt everything. I like that this is subtle in the salty.
My wife does. That's for damn
sure. The bitterness is low and out of the way. I've got a faint kind of earthy floral hop going on. Again, cleanly fermented. The balance is definitely to the malt. There's a little bit of caramel in the flavor. It's low, but it's noticeably in there, playing with all the other elements, and it doesn't stand out like, wow, this is zingy caramel. I agree with Brian there, but it just has a nice dark malt in the aftertaste, semi-sweet finish. The alcohol is fairly noticeable, but it's really smooth. So I forgive it for the 7.9. It's actually, it plays like a 6.5% or could, in some ways or so, or 6.9 maybe, but yeah. It's not harsh, and no higher alcohols or sharper, like, harsh alcohols that are biting at you there. And again, in the mouthfeel, it's just very smooth. There's no harsh biting or astringent quality to it whatsoever. It is somewhat creamy. I would say medium full bodied, which a porter can push up to, but it's on the fuller side for a porter body wise. Just the feel and it's not watery. Medium low carbonation. I'm not getting a major amount of warmth here, but there is a fair amount. As you swallow it, you get a little bit of warmth down the throat. But it's so smooth, otherwise you barely notice that.
Yeah, I got it in my gut a little bit.
Yeah, now further down, right? I agree.
Yeah,
and in the burps, right? Yeah.
Haven't got there yet, but
overall, nicely crafted salted caramel porter. I think it's got all the elements coming through. Although I prefer a bit more caramel to balance a little bit better. And I don't think a little more caramel, however you do that process wise, is going to stomp on the salt or the porter style that's there. There's plenty of complexity here to stand up to a little more caramel and have that play nicely. So I would, regardless of whether you like it for yourself or not, to make a salted caramel porter, it's the one element that's just a little bit lower than the others, and like not as quite as harmonious, but it's the quality of it that's there is nice, and I would like just a little bit more of it. So maybe if you can, where you're adding the caramel, we don't really know yet. But if you find out, sometimes, like JP said, it's something that can ferment out, and if you add it a little later in the process or add a little bit more, but figure out a way to bring that up a little bit.
Brian, sure.
A very clean beer, represents the named intent quite well. So I gave it a 38 out of 50. Again, Brian and I are 1 point off, and that's cool. But thank you for sharing it, Sean, and I'd love to hear your recipe and talk about your beer some more. Where do you want to take it, etc.
Yeah, well, real fast before we do that, I like it too. I'd probably give it a 35. I think there's some edges. I think the porter sort of sticks out a little bit. There's some, I think, a bitterness or like a harshness, which I think is like more of a grain thing. I agree with what Shar was saying. I would like to see, and I think you too, Cooper, I would like to see more caramel. That smoothness sort of would really help a lot. I would think it's like an American porter. It does feel sort of like more, I don't know, tacky, I guess. I would love to see this maybe like even like a robust porter, like a Baltic porter, something on the smoother side, if that makes, any kind of sense. I like it a lot. I agree. I don't think you should mess with the salt at all. And while you don't really get salt, quote unquote, there's the chloride in the water. Like if you know what it is, you get the impression of like, okay, I see where the salt it is. But I don't think that's like a deterrent to the beer in any way. It sort of tastes like a coffee ice cream, like a really rich, nice coffee ice cream, because of, I think, your porter recipe and maybe some of the grains in there. So it's some of the nicer coffee ice creams I've had. This is exactly what it tastes like. I get the ice cream thing.
The reference there.
Yeah, I think maybe just a little more on the softer side of maybe, the recipe, and I think, and dial that caramel up, which we'll figure out just right now. And I think you're like 80% to where I think you want to get. But Sean, go ahead and give us your recipe, man.
I was going to briefly say maybe pulling back the alcohol would achieve some of that. Just pulling back the alcohol somewhat.
Pulling back the alcohol would be a great addition, but that's just me. So sometimes I don't want to say it because I think I just being, I'm just being like a low ABV,
Right, but it's like EQing a mix. Sometimes you don't have to push something up to hear more of something else. You have to pull something back a little bit to get other things to come out. Right.
Okay. So this was a American porter style. It actually was supposed to be 6.4%. I just was very efficient, I guess, when I was brewing it, which it tends to happen on like a lot of my brews. I tend to be over than under. I'm trying to dial that in, but anyway, it's a 52% Maris Otter, 20% Munich, 4.8% Crystal 120, and 4.8% Crystal 60. 5.6% of candy sugar, Belgian candy sugar, amber, that was added 20 minutes in the boil. And then within 15 minutes of the boil, I put in, I made a caramel, I made my own caramel out of Demerara sugar.
Okay. Yeah.
It was 12 ounces of that, a little bit of wort I added to it, and some lemon juice just to make that. And so that's what I tried. There's also 3.4% Special B, 2.6% chocolate, and 1.7% carapils.
It's a lot of different malts.
Yeah, there's a ton in there.
Yeah, there is. And then hops is 1 ounce of Northern Brewer at 60 minutes, and a half ounce of East Kent Goldings at 15 minutes. The yeast I used was 1968 London ESB.
Huh. London ESB, okay.
And it was fermented at 150. Mashed at 152 for 90 minutes.
Right.
The salt I used was it was Himalayan sea salt. I put in during the boil. It was just one. It was actually like a little less than 3/4 of an ounce, so it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, that's really amazing how, 3/4 of an ounce of salt in 5 gallons?
This was a it was a 6.5 gallon batch.
Yeah, a little bit of salt can go a long way, not just in terms, which is why when I always talk about when people are over treating their water, I mean, it's not, you didn't do it for treating your water, you did it for getting a salted caramel flavor, but you can way over treat your water real easy because it doesn't take that much to go from, just whatever water you had before to water that tastes like you're licking a rock. It's just,
Well,
it doesn't take a lot.
Originally, I was going to do an ounce, and then I was like, I don't want to go, I'm going to play it safe. So I went a little under, and I feel like it was the right move.
It's a good level.
That was totally the right call.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, do we have any questions for Sean before I turn the floor to Sean?
Yeah, he's fermented it, fermentation profile, temperature controlled.
Yeah, this was, it was 68 degrees, and I do have temperature control, so it was a constant 68.
Pretty standard, really.
Yeah, I think that's really, really well done. I mean, so when you made the caramel, like how difficult was that? Is that one of those things where you got to stand there and like stir it for like an hour or something?
Well, not an hour, but yeah, it's like a 10, 15-minute process where you're just constantly stirring it. So you don't want to burn it, but you want
yourself.
Yeah, but you want to get that caramelization going. So you got to, constantly stir and constantly stir and constantly stir and take it off the heat, on the heat, off the heat, off. And then I took some of the wort from the brew and I added 500 milliliters of that wort so that it would liquefy a little better and be easier to pour back into the boil.
Smart.
That's a really smart idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
How do we get him more caramel flavor? Is it putting more caramel in, or maybe caramel flavoring? Maybe cheating a little bit, doing a little bit of both?
It was added during the boil, you said?
Yeah, well, my original plan was I was going to try and add that after fermentation, where I was going to actually ferment and then transfer to another fermenter, clean out the fermenter that I had to get as much yeast as possible out of the fermenter, and then pour it back into the original fermenter, add the caramel, and let it sit for a few days or whatever. And I didn't have the time to do it. So
it's something you could add it possibly in late fermentation, where I mean that is, your caramel is going to be sterile. Basically, you've cooked the hell out of it. It's hot. You mix it with some hot wort. And if it's not too much, you wouldn't want to pour it in too hot and get it to go. But you could cool it a little bit, cover it up, cool it in a little ice bath to kind of towards the temperature of your beer, and put it in. Then it's a sterile mixture going into your sterile environment, or sanitized, clean environment of your beer that's fermenting. So that could be one way to go.
Cooper, what do you think about the exact same caramel process, but adding some caramel malt, like a pound or so?
Yeah, the tricks you could use to bump up. So you do have some sea malts in there.
Thinking it's like, I think Sully did this, or someone on some session did this, where it's like a brewer, where it's like, use the fruit and then you take a little bit of the same fruit extract and you dose it just for like a little bit of a boost.
And that's why I'm thinking like a caramel malt, like not a huge amount, but like maybe 8 ounces or a pound. Like a pound isn't gonna, especially in a porter, that's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna end up as something that's gonna, it's gonna hopefully have a synergy with the actual caramel that you made and are using. That's just kind of brainstorming off the top of my head here.
Yeah, and like you don't want like a raisiny malt. You don't want to go like Special B or
no, not at all.
But maybe even like a British Crystal.
Like an 80L, or like
I was thinking like the British Crystal 5060, but
5060.
I don't know.
80. Yeah,
I don't know.
Like you wouldn't want to go 120.
That's interesting.
No. I did. The caramel is like the lower Lovabond.
In there. I had 12 ounces, but
yeah,
and I had 12 ounces of 120, so it's
maybe you go a little more.
Yeah, I mean, that was just again, I'm like, I was experimenting, trying to get this, like, I don't know I don't know how much to put in, how much, if it was too much, too little.
Well, that's the thing, man.
That was the whole thing with the caramel thing. How am I going to get this caramel flavor to come through?
And and I think you did a really good job for someone who's never done it before. And that's where you go. Yep. You start, you get a baseline. You try it one time and you figure out where to go from there. So we're not saying you need to tear it down to the studs and re-go.
Yeah.
You've done a pretty good job so far. It's just a matter of tweaking the aspects that you want. How do we do that?
Right. Just boosting that caramel a little somehow.
Yeah. So I like the extra, a little bit of extra 50, 60. Try that, see what happens. If not,
so I'm just like going on the Breeze website, and like their caramel malt 60L, it's a sweet and pronounced caramel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say
you might just kind of mess around with your malt. Sorry, JP.
Yeah. No, that's all right. Do that and see how it goes, man. Little tweaks here.
I would suggest
you're on the right track.
Possibly like simplifying the malt bill a little bit. There are some things in there that you might not really need in there because there are a little bit of this, a little bit of that kind of kitchen sink thing. Where if you can simplify it and just have.
What would you take out?
I didn't memorize the malt bill. I'm sorry. There was so much, and I would have had to written it all down to, I would keep all the caramel malts, keep the the chocolate malts and anything.
Get rid of like the special B maybe in the.
I don't think.
I might consider getting rid of special B because I don't think it really added anything to this. Anything that might be bitter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Of a dark malt, you might get rid of. I don't know that anything you read out was more of a bitter, but any like roasty dark malt, if you had one, I would get rid of that and maybe just try to simplify it a little bit.
Yeah, I would honestly maybe try to consider going to a different style of porter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I was thinking like a robust porter or just something with a beefier mouthfeel that the sweetness can play with the caramel a little bit more, and then with an accent to the caramel malt, like you said, Shar. And I think that would just sort of because I think part of the issue where we lose some of the caramel is the sort of bent to the American style porter, where maybe there's a little hop bitterness or something coming through that sort of cleans everything up. I think we need to squeegee that out, to get rid of that. And to focus somewhere. Yeah. So if we want salted caramel, like an ice cream, I think that the beer should sort of reflect that with an appropriate amount of dryness, right? Not just like super sweet and just kind of cloey kind of thing. We don't want that.
Right. Because that's one of the things I liked about this beer was that it was well attenuated. Mm-hmm. It was subtle. It wasn't like this big, it's not like some high gravity, pastry stout mess that's a cloying, sweet, whatever. No. I liked the dryness and the attenuation and the subtlety to it, but a little bit more, it was, like I said, it was a little bit too subtle, like a little bit of just zhuzhing it up with the caramel with maybe some malt or something else would help.
For me, the flavors are 80% there. Just to elevate and to do that, you might, like I said, like a robust, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, robust, maybe Baltic. You can try all these things. You're only been brewing 10 months. You're going to be brewing this probably 1,000 times before you have it right. And even then you might not even get it right in your mind, because you always want to, you'll always be driving to do something different with it. So that's where I'm think I'm giving you a lot to think about for that.
Just, look up some basic robust porter recipes, and some of them they might surprise you in their simplicity. Look up a Black Butte porter clone, or
Brewing Classic
the Brewing Classic Styles version of the robust porter.
And you know what, JP? I love a Baltic. I think I will drink a Baltic porter all day. Well, until I pass out, because you can't drink a Baltic porter all day. Sure. But that's one I wouldn't go. I think a salted caramel Baltic porter would be badass, but I think it's also going to be complicated because that's a 10-12% lager.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's a really big beer. And I would maybe and I would love, Sean, if you ever want to do that, please share that with us. But I would maybe try to put a fine tune on maybe a robust salted caramel robust porter, or like a British porter or something.
An English
before you step up to the Baltic.
An English porter would be my first suggestion.
Baltic is only 6.5 to 9.5. It's not 12%, but
Well, the ones that I've made have been like
makes
10%, and oh my god,
it can gets imperial stronger. Yeah.
John, do you have any questions that you want us to address?
No, I mean, I think you guys pretty much hit most of the notes there. I was just, the caramel thing was the thing I was really struggling with, trying to figure out like how I'm going to get more of a caramel punch out of this. I definitely was a little disappointed in that, but
I wouldn't change the way
I do like the beer though. I mean, I'm not
there.
It's a good beer, man. And I think what you've done is great. After 10 months of brewing, you made a really nice beer.
I think the logo is pretty tight too.
Yeah.
Hold on to that. Trademark that.
Again, that's the wife's doing. I got to give her all the credit for that.
Yeah, get a trademark on that. That'd be a cool shirt.
It's got to be sold in commerce, but that's okay. You can sell those shirts. I'm a trademark guy, so just give me a call.
There you go.
Don't change the way you're doing your caramel. Just maybe add a little more of it and adjust the recipe a little bit. Do a porter on its own sometime and dial that in a little bit, and then add the caramel salt.
Do that too.
Yep.
All right, Sean. Well, if that's it, man, we'll let you split.
All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Mad Z's.
Right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back here and wrap it up with Dr. Homebrew. Hang tight. All right. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We are going to get out of here. I want to thank Ashley and Sean for sending us beers. Well, mead. And a beer. That's cool. I like changing it up a little bit, man. It's fun.
The mead was tasty. The beer was great too. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything
that was really cool.
It was a cool show because it was like sort of showcased the level that, if you're making something really, really good and you can always make it better, but they were both like 80% there. It was kind of neat to see. It was like, oh yeah, it's like we're almost there. And how do you polish that?
Yes.
Yeah.
How would someone polish their beer if they wanted to improve it and send it into a show where they could get that done?
Yeah.
Would they email somebody like me?
I don't know.
Offer to send their beer into us.
Law.com, Brian.
Brian
at thebrewingnetwork.com.
There you go. That's what it is.
With an I.
But it was cool, man. I don't know. I like seeing. We get two entrants that are almost there and talking about fine tuning.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's the kind of where we can sort of get lost in the weeds sometimes on the show, and I like that. I think it's neat.
We went on and on like we could have gone about a defective beer, we just went on and on about some of these fine points, and that is some of the fun of judging.
Yeah. But I agree. I learned a lot about mead from Ashley, which I don't know a lot about mead, and her mead was amazing. And it was really cool that Sean gave us a beverage that we've never had before.
Never had it.
And the guy's brewed for less than a year, and he's making a beer. It took me like 10 years to get to a point of making something that good. It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. That takes some talent.
It really does.
On that note,
thanks a lot for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Like Brian said, if you want to get on the show, Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. Send us beer, kombucha, mead, cider, whatever you want to do. If you ferment it at home, we will ingest it at our homes and then tell you about it while you are at your home, if that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep.
Excuse me. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.
Cheers.